Most people spend their entire lives chasing freedom, without ever stopping to ask what freedom actually means. They believe freedom is a number, a salary, a bank balance. But what if freedom has nothing to do with how much money you make, and everything to do with how much control you have among your choices? In this book, you will begin to see money differently, not as something to show, but as something to protect you. Because the uncomfortable truth is this: many people earn more money every year, yet feel less free with every step forward. They upgrade their lifestyle, but downgrade their peace. They gain status, but lose control. They become successful in the eyes of others, while slowly trapping themselves inside expectations they never chose. This book is not about becoming rich. It is about understanding why money, which is supposed to create freedom, so often becomes the very thing that takes it away. Freedom is not the ability to buy anything you want. It is the ability to say no, without fear, without panic, without consequences that threaten your life. Most people don't lack money. They lack flexibility. They are owned by their bills, their reputation, their lifestyle, and the pressure to keep moving forward no matter the cost. This book will challenge a dangerous assumption you may have lived with for years, that more money automatically means more freedom. You will see why the opposite is often true. Why the highest form of wealth is not income but independence. Independence from urgency. Independence from comparison. Independence from the need to constantly prove that you are doing well. As you continue listening, you may realize that freedom is not something you reach at the end of success. It is something you design along the way, by understanding limits, by defining enough, and by making money serve your life instead of consuming it. And if these ideas resonate with you, if you are someone who values clarity over noise, depth over hype, and long-term thinking over quick motivation, then staying connected to this space matters. Because this channel is not built for trends. It is built for thinkers. For people who want to understand money, not worship it. For people who want calm, control, and clarity, not endless pressure. So before we go deeper into this book, take a moment to stay connected with this journey. Not because you are told to, but because the way you think about money will shape the freedom you experience for the rest of your life. And what comes next in this book may quietly change that forever. What money is really for. The most important role of money is not to make you rich. It is to give you control. Control over your time. Control over your choices. Control over how you respond when life becomes unpredictable. This idea is often misunderstood because money is usually discussed in terms of numbers, income, net worth, returns. But the true value of money lies in what it allows you to avoid. It allows you to avoid urgency. It allows you to avoid dependence. It allows you to avoid decisions made under pressure. Freedom begins where urgency ends. Many people work tirelessly to increase their income, believing that higher earnings will automatically lead to freedom. But income alone does not create independence. What creates freedom is the gap between what you earn and what you need. That gap is called margin. Margin is the ability to wait. It is the ability to walk away. It is the ability to say no when something does not align with your life. Without margin, even high income becomes a trap. People with impressive salaries often live with constant anxiety because their lifestyle absorbs every dollar they earn. Their obligations rise alongside their income. As a result, they are forced to keep running just to stay in place. This is not freedom. It is dependency disguised as success. The original purpose of money was never accumulation for its own sake. It was security. Money was meant to provide a buffer between you and uncertainty, a buffer against job loss, a buffer against illness, a buffer against mistakes. When money fulfills this role, it reduces fear. And when fear is reduced, decision-making improves. People who are not desperate can think clearly. They can take long-term perspectives. They can act intentionally rather than react emotionally. This is why the highest value of money is psychological, not material. Money buys calm. Calm is what allows you to plan rather than panic. Yet many people unknowingly trade calm for consumption. They convert financial security into visible upgrades, bigger homes, newer cars, higher expenses. Each upgrade increases fixed costs and reduces flexibility. Over time, their money stops protecting them and starts controlling them. This shift is subtle. It does not happen overnight. It happens one decision at a time, each one reasonable on its own, but dangerous in combination. The freedom money can provide depends less on how much you have and more on how you structure your life around it. Two people can earn the same amount of money and live entirely different realities. One feels free, the other feels trapped. The difference lies in expectations. Freedom is created when expectations are intentionally kept lower than capability. When spending rises slower than income, margin grows. When margin grows, freedom expands. This principle explains why some people with modest means feel financially secure, while others with significant wealth feel constantly stressed. Stress is not caused by lack of money. It is caused by lack of control. Money that is fully committed to obligations offers no flexibility. Money that remains uncommitted offers options. Options are the foundation of freedom. The ability to pause, the ability to choose, the ability to adjust without panic. This is why wealth should be measured by how long you can sustain your current lifestyle without income, not by how impressive your lifestyle looks to others. True financial strength is quiet. It does not announce itself through consumption. It expresses itself through patience. Patience is only possible when immediate survival is not at stake. People who are financially secure are not smarter. They are less rushed. They do not need to force decisions. They do not need to chase every opportunity. They can wait for the right moment. This waiting is often misinterpreted as complacency. In reality, it is strategic restraint. Freedom is built when money removes pressure from decision-making. When pressure disappears, life opens up. You can choose work that aligns with your values. You can leave environments that damage your health. You can prioritize relationships over income without fear. Money cannot buy happiness, but it can buy the conditions that make happiness possible. The misunderstanding begins when people treat money as a scorecard rather than a tool. Once money becomes a measure of worth, freedom fades. Because worth tied to income requires constant defense. But money used as a tool for control quietly delivers what most people truly want: autonomy. And autonomy is the foundation upon which real freedom is built, the value of time and flexibility. If money is meant to create freedom, then time is the currency that freedom is measured in. People often believe that wealth is about purchasing things. In reality, the most valuable thing money can buy is control over your time. Time is the one resource that cannot be replaced, stored, or recovered. Once it is spent, it is gone. This is why freedom is not defined by how much you own, but by how much of your time you truly control. Most people sell their time long before they realize its value. They commit future hours to present decisions, long work schedules, heavy obligations, fixed lifestyles that demand constant maintenance. At first, these commitments feel manageable. They even feel rewarding. But over time, they reduce flexibility. Flexibility is the ability to adapt when circumstances change. It is the ability to adjust without panic. Without flexibility, even success becomes fragile. People with high income but no flexibility often live under constant pressure. They cannot slow down. They cannot step away. They cannot afford mistakes. This is not because they lack money, but because their time is already spoken for. Freedom is built by preserving optionality. Optionality means having choices when conditions change. It means not being forced into decisions by urgency. Money increases optionality only when it is paired with time flexibility. This is why two people with the same wealth can experience completely different levels of freedom. One structures their life to protect time. The other structures their life to maximize consumption. The first gains flexibility. The second gains stress. The original logic of this book emphasizes a simple truth. Freedom is less about what you can buy and more about what you are no longer required to do. The ability to walk away from situations that damage your health, values, or peace is one of the highest forms of wealth. But this ability depends on how little you need your next paycheck. Dependence on immediate income reduces freedom. Independence from immediate income increases it. This does not require extreme wealth. It requires time. Time buffers, time margins, time that allows you to pause instead of react. People often underestimate how powerful time flexibility is because it does not show up in lifestyle signals. You cannot see it, you cannot display it, but it determines the quality of every decision you make. When you have time, you can wait for better opportunities. You can negotiate instead of accepting. You can recover from mistakes. When you lack time, every decision feels urgent. Urgency pushes people toward risk. This is how people compromise long-term freedom for short-term gains. They take roles they cannot leave, They accept obligations they cannot unwind. They trade years of future flexibility for immediate rewards. These trades often feel rational in the moment, but they quietly reduce freedom. The book makes an important point here. Financial freedom is not about retiring early or never working again. It is about working on your terms. It is about choosing how, when, and why you work. This choice becomes possible only when money creates time flexibility instead of time pressure. People who prioritize flexibility often appear less ambitious. They turn down opportunities. They slow down growth. They resist lifestyle inflation. But these choices protect something invisible and valuable. They protect autonomy. Autonomy allows you to align your life with your values rather than your expenses. It allows you to take meaningful risks because failure does not threaten survival. Time flexibility also improves thinking. When you are not rushed, you think more clearly. You can consider second-order consequences. You can separate noise from signal. This leads to better decisions, which compound over time. The paradox is that those who guard their time often end up with more opportunities, not fewer. Because they are not forced to say yes, they can choose wisely. This is why the real measure of financial success is not how busy you are, but how optional your days feel. Freedom grows when money gives you time to think, time to choose, and time to live deliberately. Without time flexibility, money remains a source of pressure. With it, money becomes a source of peace. And peace is the foundation upon which lasting freedom is built. Independence from income pressure. Freedom begins to disappear the moment income becomes urgent. Urgency changes behavior. It narrows thinking. It reduces patience. And it forces decisions that prioritize short-term survival over long-term well-being. Many people believe they are working toward freedom while unknowingly increasing their dependence on immediate income. They upgrade their lifestyle faster than their security. They commit to expenses that demand constant cash flow. They build a life that cannot pause. This is not a lack of ambition. It is a misunderstanding of freedom. True financial freedom is not the absence of work. It is the absence of desperation. Desperation comes from needing the next paycheck to maintain basic stability. When income is required without interruption, choice disappears. You cannot wait. You cannot negotiate. You cannot walk away. Every decision becomes reactive. The original insight of this book is simple but uncomfortable. The more you need your next paycheck, the less control you have over your life. This is not about income level. It is about dependency. Two people can earn the same amount, yet one feels free and the other feels trapped. The difference is how much room exists between income and obligation. That room is independence. Independence does not require extreme wealth. It requires buffers. Buffers absorb shocks. They create space for error. They allow time for adjustment. Without buffers, even small disruptions become crises. A delayed payment, an unexpected expense, a temporary loss of income. When there is no margin, these events trigger panic. Panic leads to poor decisions. People accept work they dislike. They tolerate unhealthy environments. They compromise values to maintain cash flow. This is how money begins to control behavior. The goal of money, as described in this book, is to reduce the power of fear over decision-making. Fear thrives when survival is threatened. Independence weakens fear by separating daily life from immediate income. This separation creates calm. Calm allows perspective. Perspective allows better choices. Most people underestimate how much pressure income dependence creates because it becomes normal over time. They adapt to stress. They normalize urgency. They confuse busyness with progress. But constant urgency is not a sign of success. It is a signal of fragility. Fragile systems perform well only under perfect conditions. Resilient systems survive change. Financial independence is about building resilience. Resilience is not flashy. It does not attract attention, but it quietly determines who survives downturns and who is forced into unfavorable decisions. The book emphasizes that independence is cumulative. It grows slowly through consistent saving, controlled spending, and avoiding commitments that eliminate flexibility. Each small buffer adds protection. Each avoided obligation preserves choice. Over time, this compounds into something powerful, the ability to make decisions based on preference rather than necessity. When income pressure is reduced, work becomes optional rather than mandatory. Optional work feels different. You can choose roles that align with your values. You can prioritize learning over earning. You can step back when your health or family needs attention. This does not mean working less. It means working with agency. Agency is the core of freedom. People often delay independence because they believe freedom will arrive later, after one more raise, one more promotion, one more financial milestone. But independence is not a destination. It is a condition that must be protected along the way. Each lifestyle expansion should be questioned. Each obligation should be weighed against lost flexibility. The cost of something is not its price. It is the amount of future freedom it consumes. This perspective changes how decisions feel. A higher salary that demands total availability may reduce freedom more than it increases wealth. A simpler life with lower fixed costs may provide greater independence than a more impressive lifestyle. Freedom grows when income pressure shrinks. When pressure shrinks, choices expand. And when choices expand, life becomes less reactive and more intentional. This is the quiet power of independence, not freedom from work, but freedom from fear. And fearlessness is what allows money to finally serve the life it was meant to support. The power of low expectations. Freedom often grows not from having more, but from needing less. This idea feels counterintuitive in a world that constantly encourages expansion. We are taught to raise our standards, upgrade our lifestyles, and expect more from success. But the book presents a quieter truth. Low expectations can be a powerful form of freedom. Expectations create pressure. The higher your fixed expectations, the more rigid your life becomes. Every expectation adds a requirement. Every requirement reduces flexibility. When expectations rise faster than capability, freedom shrinks. This is why some people with modest means feel surprisingly free, while others with significant income feel constantly constrained. The difference is not ambition, it is expectation management. Low expectations do not mean low standards. They mean controlled dependence. They mean designing a life that does not demand constant high performance to survive. High expectations increase fragility. They assume stable conditions. They assume uninterrupted income. They assume perfect execution. Life rarely offers these conditions for long. When expectations are high, any disruption becomes a crisis. A missed paycheck, a market downturn, a health issue. Each event threatens stability because there is no buffer. Low expectations absorb disruption. They create room for error. They allow recovery. They reduce the emotional cost of setbacks. This is why freedom often belongs to those who appear content with less. They are not less capable. They are less exposed. The book highlights an important distinction. Expectations are often shaped socially, not personally. People raise their expectations not because their needs have changed, but because their reference points have shifted. They compare upward. They absorb new standards. They adjust their definition of normal. This process happens quietly. Over time, what once felt like luxury becomes necessity, and necessity removes choice. Once something becomes necessary, you cannot easily give it up. You must earn enough to maintain it. You must protect it. You must plan around it. This is how lifestyle becomes a constraint. Low expectations interrupt this cycle. They slow the process of normalization. They prevent temporary gains from becoming permanent obligations. People with low expectations can enjoy increases in income without immediately committing them. They allow progress without surrendering freedom. This approach also changes how risk is perceived. When expectations are low, risk becomes optional. You can take chances because failure does not threaten survival. When expectations are high, risk becomes dangerous. Failure carries consequences that ripple through every part of life. This is why people with low expectations often make better long-term decisions. They are not forced by urgency. They are not cornered by commitments. They can wait. Waiting is a form of power. It allows opportunities to mature. It allows mistakes to pass. It allows clarity to emerge. High expectations remove the ability to wait. Everything feels immediate. Everything feels necessary. This constant pressure is exhausting. Low expectations reduce pressure without eliminating progress. They allow life to improve gradually, instead of demanding constant acceleration. The book emphasizes that freedom is fragile when built on high expectations. It depends on conditions staying favorable. Freedom built on low expectations is durable. It survives volatility. It adapts to change. It does not require perfection. This does not mean rejecting comfort or progress. It means choosing stability over display. It means resisting the urge to convert every gain into obligation. Low expectations create psychological safety. They reduce anxiety about the future. They prevent success from becoming a burden. They allow people to enjoy what they have instead of constantly defending it. In this way, low expectations become a quiet form of wealth, not visible, not impressive, but deeply liberating. Freedom grows when life requires less from you, and when life requires less, you regain control over how you spend your time, energy, and attention. This is the hidden strength of low expectations. They do not limit life. They protect it, avoiding lifestyle traps. One of the fastest ways to lose freedom is to upgrade your lifestyle faster than your independence. Lifestyle traps rarely feel dangerous when they begin. They often feel like rewards. A bigger home, a better car, more comfort, more convenience. Each upgrade feels justified. After all, income has increased. Effort has paid off. But the book points to a quiet risk. Every lifestyle upgrade adds permanence. What starts as a choice slowly becomes a requirement, and requirements reduce freedom. Lifestyle traps are not about extravagance. They are about rigidity. They lock you into higher fixed costs. They reduce your margin for error. They increase dependence on uninterrupted income. Over time, money stops creating options and starts enforcing obligations. This transition is subtle. No single decision feels reckless. Each upgrade appears reasonable in isolation, but combined, they form a system that demands constant performance. People often underestimate the danger of fixed expenses. Fixed expenses do not adjust when circumstances change. They do not care about market cycles, health issues, or personal priorities. They require payment regardless of conditions. This is why lifestyle traps are so effective at eroding freedom. They remove flexibility quietly without ever announcing their cost. The book emphasizes that freedom depends not on how much you earn, but on how easily your life can scale down if needed. A flexible life can absorb shocks. A rigid life breaks under pressure. Lifestyle inflation reduces flexibility. As income rises, expectations rise alongside it. What once felt optional becomes essential. Once something is essential, you cannot walk away from the income that supports it. This is how success becomes fragile. People trapped by lifestyle inflation often appear successful from the outside, but feel anxious inside. They cannot slow down. They cannot take risks. They cannot afford missteps. Their life demands continuity. This is not freedom. The original insight of the book is clear. Freedom grows when spending grows slower than income. This gap is not wasted potential. It is stored flexibility. Stored flexibility is power. It allows you to pause without panic. It allows you to step back when needed. It allows you to make decisions from preference, not pressure. Avoiding lifestyle traps does not mean avoiding comfort. It means being intentional about permanence. Temporary pleasures are harmless. Permanent obligations are not. The danger lies not in enjoying progress, but in converting progress into fixed commitments. This conversion often happens automatically. People feel pressure to match peers. They adjust to new standards of normal. They absorb expectations without questioning them. Over time, their baseline cost of living rises, and with it, the minimum income required to feel safe. This minimum becomes a leash. The book encourages a different approach. Treat lifestyle upgrades as experiments, not defaults. Delay permanence. Enjoy increases in income without immediately locking them into obligations. Allow time to test whether an upgrade actually improves your life or simply increases pressure. This delay protects freedom. It creates space for reflection. Many lifestyle traps could be avoided simply by waiting. Waiting reveals whether desire is lasting or momentary. Waiting separates want from need. People who wait often realize they were already comfortable. Those who rush often discover they have trapped themselves. Freedom depends on reversibility. Decisions that can be undone are safer than those that cannot. Lifestyle choices are often difficult to reverse. Once made permanent, they shape daily life. This is why cautious escalation is a powerful strategy. Grow slowly. Commit selectively. Preserve the ability to adapt. The book does not argue against enjoying money. It argues against letting enjoyment eliminate choice. When money is used to reduce pressure, freedom expands. When money is used to increase expectations, freedom contracts. Lifestyle traps do not announce themselves as traps. They present themselves as success. But true success is not how impressive life looks. It is how resilient it remains. And resilience is the quiet guardian of freedom, the power of saving time. Saving is often misunderstood as an act of restriction. People associate it with sacrifice, delay, and missed enjoyment. But the book presents a different truth. Saving is not about money. It is about time. When you save money, you are not storing wealth for a future purchase. You are storing time for future choices. Time is what saving protects. Every dollar saved represents time you do not have to sell later. This perspective changes everything. People who view saving as deprivation struggle to do it consistently. People who view saving as time protection understand its quiet power. Saving creates distance between you and urgency. Urgency is what forces bad decisions. It compresses timelines. It reduces optionality. When you have savings, you gain the ability to wait. Waiting is one of the most underappreciated advantages in life. It allows you to avoid bad deals. It allows you to recover from mistakes. It allows you to choose rather than accept. The book emphasizes that the value of savings is not measured by how impressive the number looks, but by how long it allows you to live without income. This is a radically different way to think about wealth. Two people with the same savings can experience different levels of freedom depending on their spending expectations. Savings multiplied by low expectations create time. Savings combined with high expectations create anxiety. This is why saving cannot be separated from lifestyle design. Savings only produce freedom when they are not immediately consumed by obligations. People often save aggressively, only to undermine their efforts by expanding their lifestyle at the same time. In these cases, savings become fragile. They exist on paper but provide little real security. True saving builds durability. It allows you to withstand volatility without changing your life dramatically. Markets fluctuate. Jobs change. Health and priorities evolve. Savings act as a shock absorber. They reduce the emotional impact of uncertainty by reducing the practical consequences. When people lack savings, they are forced to treat every income opportunity as essential. They cannot pause. They cannot experiment. They cannot recover gracefully. This pressure limits growth. Ironically, the people with the least savings often work the hardest because they have the least flexibility. The book highlights that saving is most powerful, not when times are difficult, but when times are good. Saving during prosperity creates freedom during adversity. Yet, this is often ignored. Because good times create confidence. Confidence encourages consumption. Consumption increases fixed costs. Fixed costs reduce future options. Saving resists this cycle. It slows the conversion of income into obligation. It preserves the ability to adjust when conditions change. This resistance may look conservative, but it is strategic. Saving time also improves decision-making. When survival is not at stake, you can evaluate opportunities objectively. You can say no without fear. You can wait for better conditions. You can choose alignment over urgency. This clarity compounds over time. People who save consistently often experience fewer crises not because they are lucky, but because they are prepared. Preparation does not eliminate risk. It reduces the cost of risk. The book makes an important distinction here. Saving is not hoarding. Hoarding is driven by fear. Saving is driven by intention. Hoarding seeks control through accumulation. Saving seeks freedom through flexibility. This difference matters. When saving is driven by fear, it creates anxiety. When saving is driven by design, it creates calm. Calm allows better planning. Better planning leads to better outcomes. Saving also provides psychological relief. Knowing that you have time reduces stress. Reduced stress improves health, relationships, and focus. These benefits are rarely included in traditional measures of wealth, but they are central to freedom. The book argues that the ultimate goal of saving is not to stop working, but to stop being desperate. Desperation narrows life. Saving expands it. Each saved dollar is a vote for future choice. Each month of expenses covered is a buffer against uncertainty. Over time, these buffers accumulate into something powerful, not luxury, not status, freedom. Freedom to slow down. Freedom to rethink direction. Freedom to protect what matters most. This is the real return on saving, not interest, not growth. Time. And time, once protected, becomes the most reliable form of wealth you can own. Freedom, I says, the ability to say no. One of the clearest signs of freedom is not what you can do, but what you can refuse to do. The ability to say no is one of the most powerful outcomes of financial independence, yet it is also one of the rarest. Most people live in a state where refusal carries consequences. Saying no risks income, it risks stability, it risks reputation. When refusal is dangerous, choice disappears. The book emphasizes that freedom is not the accumulation of options, but the removal of forced obligations. Forced obligations exist when you must accept conditions to maintain basic security. This is why saying no is such a revealing test of freedom. If you cannot say no to work that drains you, to commitments that exhaust you, or to expectations that conflict with your values, then money is still controlling your decisions. The irony is that many people with high income have less ability to say no than those with modest means. Their lifestyle requires constant performance. Their reputation demands consistency. Their obligations leave little room for refusal. They appear powerful, but they are constrained. The book frames freedom as optionality. Optionality is the ability to choose among alternatives without fear of immediate loss. Saying no requires optionality. It requires knowing that declining an opportunity will not threaten survival. This security changes behavior. People who can say no are not arrogant. They are independent. They do not rush. They do not overextend. They do not compromise easily. Their decisions are guided by alignment, not pressure. The inability to say no often stems from earlier choices. Lifestyle inflation, high expectations, fixed obligations. Each of these reduces optionality. Over time, people find themselves saying yes, not because they want to, but because they must. This is how freedom erodes quietly. The book highlights that saying no is rarely a dramatic act. It is often subtle, turning down an extra responsibility, declining an upgrade, resisting an unnecessary commitment. These small refusals preserve freedom. They prevent life from becoming rigid. Saying no also protects time. Every yes consumes future hours. Every no preserves them. Time is finite. Money can be earned again. This asymmetry makes refusal valuable. People who understand this treat time as the primary asset and money as the tool that protects it. This perspective reverses traditional thinking. Instead of asking, "What will this pay?" they ask, "What will this cost me in time and freedom?" This question leads to better decisions. The book notes that social pressure is one of the strongest forces undermining the ability to say no. Expectations from peers, employers, and society create invisible obligations. People feel compelled to keep up, to appear successful, to avoid disappointing others. These pressures make refusal emotionally difficult, even when it is financially possible. True freedom includes emotional independence. It includes the ability to tolerate disapproval without panic. Money supports this by reducing dependence on external validation. When income is not threatened, approval becomes optional. This is deeply liberating. The ability to say no also improves the quality of yes. When yes is chosen freely, it carries meaning. It is intentional. It is aligned. It is energizing. When yes is forced, it becomes draining. Forced yeses accumulate into resentment, burnout, and loss of direction. The book argues that many people mistake busyness for progress because they lack the freedom to decline. They fill their time with obligations to justify their choices. But freedom is not proven by how much you do. It is revealed by how much you can refuse. The ultimate purpose of money, as described throughout this book, is to make refusals safe. Safe to slow down, safe to rethink direction, safe to protect health, family, and peace. Saying no is not about disengaging from life. It is about engaging on your terms. It is about choosing commitments that reflect your values rather than your fears. When money allows you to say no, it stops being a source of pressure and becomes a source of dignity. This dignity is the quiet foundation of freedom. Independence from comparison. Comparison is one of the most powerful forces that quietly erodes freedom. It rarely feels dangerous. It often feels motivating. People compare income, lifestyle, progress, and status, believing comparison helps them measure success. But the book reveals a deeper truth. Comparison does not create direction, it creates pressure. Pressure replaces choice. When success is defined by how you rank against others, freedom disappears. Your goals stop being personal. They become reactive. You begin chasing standards you did not choose, living inside expectations you never agreed to. This is how comparison turns money into a source of anxiety. The problem with comparison is not envy. It is distortion. You rarely compare full lives. You compare highlights. You see outcomes without context, results without trade-offs, success without cost. This incomplete picture raises expectations artificially. As expectations rise, obligations follow, and obligations reduce freedom. The book emphasizes that comparison works on a moving target. There will always be someone with more income, more visibility, more apparent success. If your satisfaction depends on relative position, it will never stabilize. Freedom requires stability. Stability requires internal reference points. People who are free financially do not measure progress by others' outcomes. They measure it by alignment. Alignment between money and values. Alignment between work and life. Alignment between effort and peace. Comparison interrupts this alignment. It shifts attention outward. Instead of asking, "Does this improve my life?" people ask, "How does this look?" This subtle shift changes decisions. People upgrade prematurely. They overextend financially. They commit to paths that increase pressure, not because they want to, but because they feel behind. The book explains that comparison is especially dangerous once basic needs are met. At that point, additional money rarely improves happiness, but comparison convinces people that more is still required. This creates endless chasing without satisfaction. Freedom, however, depends on contentment, not complacency, contentment. Contentment allows you to stop. It allows you to define enough without feeling inadequate. People who are independent from comparison can enjoy progress without panic. They can appreciate success without immediately raising the bar. This ability is rare because modern environments intensify comparison. Social media, professional networks, public performance of success. These systems reward visibility, not well-being. They amplify extremes and normalize pressure. The book encourages an intentional separation between your financial life and social comparison. This does not mean isolation. It means selective exposure. It means recognizing that other people's goals are not instructions for your life. Freedom grows when you limit the influence of comparison on financial decisions. When comparison fades, clarity returns. You become more aware of what actually improves your life. More time, less stress, greater flexibility. These outcomes rarely appear impressive to others, but they feel deeply satisfying internally. Independence from comparison also reduces emotional volatility. Wins feel calmer. Losses feel manageable. You stop tying self-worth to financial milestones. This emotional stability is a core component of freedom. The book highlights that comparison often disguises fear. Fear of falling behind. Fear of missing out. Fear of being judged. Money cannot eliminate these fears if it is used to compete. But money can reduce fear when it is used to protect autonomy. Freedom is not found by winning invisible races. It is found by stepping out of them. This step requires courage. The courage to accept that your version of success may look smaller, slower, or quieter, but it will be yours. And ownership is the foundation of freedom. When you stop comparing, money stops being a scoreboard. It becomes a tool to support your values, your time, and your peace. This is the quiet victory that comparison will never offer. Freedom does not come from having more than others. It comes from needing less validation from them. Freedom is about control, not wealth. At the heart of this book's message lies a simple distinction that is often misunderstood. Freedom is not about how much money you have. It is about how much control you retain. Wealth and control are related, but they are not the same. Money can increase control, but it can also reduce it if it creates obligations that demand constant attention. This is why some people with significant wealth feel less free than those with far less. They have money, but they lack control over how it is used, how it must be maintained, and how it shapes their daily life. The book emphasizes that control is the real objective. Control over time, control over risk, control over decisions when circumstances change. Wealth that does not improve control is incomplete. It may look impressive, but it does not deliver freedom. This misunderstanding leads people to pursue numbers instead of outcomes. They focus on income targets, net worth milestones, and visible signs of success. But numbers alone do not guarantee flexibility. Control comes from structure, not scale. It comes from how money is organized within a life. A smaller amount of money with low obligations often provides more control than a larger amount entangled in commitments. This is why freedom is deeply personal. It cannot be measured externally. It cannot be ranked. Two people can earn identical incomes and experience completely different levels of freedom. One designs their life around flexibility. The other designs it around display. One gains control. The other gains pressure. The book highlights that control is most visible during moments of stress, when markets fall, when income is disrupted, when priorities shift unexpectedly. In these moments, wealth built without control reveals its weakness. Assets may exist on paper, but access is limited. Liquidity is constrained. Decisions are forced. Control, by contrast, reveals itself through calm. Calm is not indifference. It is confidence. It is the ability to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally. People with control do not rush to fix everything immediately. They assess, they wait, they adjust. This patience is not passive, it is strategic. Control also changes the relationship with risk. When control is strong, risk becomes optional. You can choose when to take it and when to avoid it. When control is weak, risk becomes unavoidable. You are forced into decisions because there is no margin for delay. The book makes it clear that the most dangerous risks are often taken not out of ambition, but out of necessity. Control removes necessity. It restores choice. This is why the pursuit of freedom should prioritize flexibility over optimization. Optimization seeks maximum efficiency. Flexibility seeks resilience. Efficient systems perform well under ideal conditions. Resilient systems survive change. Freedom requires resilience. Resilience requires control. This perspective also reframes success. Success is not how fast you grow, but how well you endure. Not how much you accumulate, but how easily you can adapt. Control allows you to endure volatility without sacrificing peace. It allows you to slow down without fear of collapse. Many people delay control because they believe it will come later, after the next promotion, after the next milestone, after more wealth is secured. But control is not automatic. It must be designed. Every commitment should be evaluated by how much control it adds or removes. Every upgrade should be questioned by how reversible it is. Every financial decision should be weighed against its impact on future choice. The book argues that the ultimate purpose of money is not growth, but stability that supports autonomy. Autonomy allows life to be lived deliberately. Without autonomy, even success feels constrained. With autonomy, even modest means can feel abundant. Freedom emerges when money stops dictating behavior and starts enabling intention. This is the moment when wealth becomes meaningful, not because it is large, but because it is aligned. Control transforms money from a source of pressure into a source of confidence. And confidence, quiet, steady, unforced, is the true expression of freedom. Freedom is rarely found where people expect it to be. It is not hidden inside bigger numbers, higher income, or more impressive lifestyles. It is hidden inside control. Control over time. Control over decisions. Control over how much pressure your life can tolerate. Throughout this book, one message has quietly repeated itself. Money does not create freedom by growing endlessly. It creates freedom by reducing dependence. Dependence on income. Dependence on approval. Dependence on comparison. When these dependencies shrink, choice expands. And choice is the true definition of freedom. Many people spend their lives building wealth without ever designing independence. They accumulate resources, but also accumulate obligations. They gain more, yet feel increasingly constrained. This is not failure, it is misunderstanding. Money was never meant to impress others. It was meant to protect you. To protect your time, to protect your health, to protect your ability to walk away from situations that no longer serve your life. Freedom does not require perfection. It requires margin. Margin to make mistakes. Margin to slow down. Margin to change direction without fear of collapse. This margin is built quietly, through patience, through restraint, through decisions that prioritize resilience over display. The most powerful financial lives are often the least visible ones. They are calm, flexible, and intentional. They do not race. They do not compete. They do not measure success by how others are doing. They measure it by how much peace their money allows them to keep. Freedom is not about escaping responsibility. It is about choosing responsibility on your own terms. It is about saying yes because you want to, not because you are forced to, and it is about saying no without panic, guilt, or fear. When money gives you that ability, it has fulfilled its highest purpose. This book was not written to push you toward more. It was written to help you decide when more stops adding value. Because the most dangerous moment in life is not when you have too little, it is when you have enough but do not recognize it. Recognizing enough is how freedom begins, not suddenly, not dramatically, but steadily. And when freedom is built this way, it lasts. It survives uncertainty. It survives change. It survives success itself. That is the quiet power of money used with intention. Not to chase freedom someday, but to live it deliberately, starting now.